Hello, this is Mike McCormick, and I'm here to chat with you briefly about this is one of the ways that we're adding to our website to give you some ideas on how you might look at, as you develop your personal memoir with Heritage Tree Publishing, how you might look at just ways to think about your experiences in life. And the first thought I had was a couple of weeks ago I had a really fun, a chance to have a lot of fun and a really interesting experience speaking to a woman who was born in 1904 in a log cabin in Wisconsin. She was 105 years old, and I was awed by her clarity of thought and her ability to express herself. And it was a privilege for me to just chat with her and find out about life through her view of life. And that's what we're talking about today. And I wanted to be very careful in the questions I asked her and ask questions that were respectful of her life experiences. And one of the questions I asked that I think she enjoyed responding to was, what was good about the good old days? And that's something I would offer now as a focus for you. What was good about the good old days? What in your recollection was good about the good old days? And you get to define the good old days however you'd like. You get to define good about the good old days however you like. This one, Louise, her response was, what was good about the good old days was how people were so neighborly to each other. They really looked after each other. And she gave the example of her family moved from Chicago to a small town in Wisconsin. And when they arrived, no one knew them. And yet they were welcomed with open arms. And there were people in the community who were very willing to open their houses and help them. People helped each other to a large extent in what Louise called the good old days. And so how did that work in your life? How did that work in your family? How did that work in your neighborhood? And what do you remember about that? And how did those lessons that you learned as a young person carry forward through your life? And really what would be wonderful to hear about is, how did you pass those on to people in your family, your children, your grandchildren? And what values that you brought forward from your world into our world. Because really that's what we're talking about here, is a chance to recreate what was good about the good old days with the discussion. One of the best things that families do is they look after each other and they communicate with each other. And there are so many options for communication now that there weren't in the good old days. And in some ways that's great. We can communicate with each other on video phone, for example. My daughter can communicate with her grandmother overseas on a video phone. That wasn't possible 50 years ago. But it also creates a place where people are perhaps too over-communicated. So what we want to do is strengthen the idea of families communicating with each other. And that's what this experience is. It's a chance to build your family memoirs and build it around what you remember from your family, and also what you passed on with your family, and include your family members in it. So that's what I would offer today. What was good about the good old days? What do you remember in your life that was good about the good old days? How was what your grandparents or your parents taught you about life? Examples of lessons they learned about that was good in the good old days. How did you pass those lessons on to your children and your grandchildren? Those family values that started generations ago are still incorporated in current thought. In my family, one experience we had was with education. We were my grandfather was very fortunate to have gotten access to an advanced education, even though he didn't have a lot of money at the time. And the principle that education was important to our family was carried on through our generations. And I'm very grateful to my dad for providing me with a good education, and I look forward to providing my children with a good education. And so those kind of lessons, how did your family look at education? How did your family look at religion? Religion is a very important thread of connection through lives. What was good about the good old days in your views? How did people who experienced those values pass them on? That's our thought for right now. We're going to wrap this session up, but I just wanted to share that with you and help you further your thoughts on how you want to continue your memoirs. And also you may want to discuss with each other in your groups or at your activity places what was good about the good old days, and how does that reflect into what you want to say about your life in your memoirs. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.